Hi, everyone. I hope you're doing fine, and I miss you all because I always complain that you're noisy, that you don't listen to me, but actually today I need you more. I hope you're doing fine, and I miss you. Today we're gonna start again.
Again, please.
Okay.
All of them.
Hi, everyone. I lot. I always complain when you make noise during my lessons, when you don't listen to me, when you don't do your homeworks. But today, believe me that I really miss you more, and I hope you're doing fine. Today, I thought that maybe we can do some exercises when it comes to equations. We will start with the first grade equation because I think that we should start it from the bottom. What is the first grade equation? The first grade equation is that equation where the x is to the power 1. For example, ax plus b equals 0. This is the form of first grade equation. We have to find the x's, okay? These are the exercises about the first grade equation. Let's take an exercise. For example, x plus 2 equals 15. Let's start it from the easiest one. So what can I do in this case? We should find the x. We should collect the x's on the left and the numbers on the right. So I have the right to say that x equals 15 minus 2. Why it's minus? Because from plus, if I move it on the right side, it's minus then. So x equals 13. Okay? Another form of exercise is when we have to simplify the exercise first and then to find the x. For example, I might write that 3x minus 5 plus 2x equals 5x minus 2 minus 10 plus 5 minus 2x, okay? In this kind of exercise, first I have to simplify it. So x, and this is my number. 3x plus 2x equals 5x, okay? Minus 5, because this is the only number, equals 5x and 2x here, minus 2 and minus 10 here. 5x minus 2x equals 3x. So it's 3x. And minus 2 minus 10, it's minus 12. Why it's minus 12? Because these numbers, they have the same sign. So I have the right to make the sum of them and to put the same sign. So minus 12, 2 plus 10, 12. Okay? So in this case, I should collect the x's on the left and the numbers on the right. So I can say that 5x minus 3x, because here is positive. So it's 5x minus 3x equals minus 12, because I didn't move it from the right side. So I just write it as it is. So it's minus 12 plus 5, because we know that if I move numbers or x's from one side to another, they change the sign. So from minus 5, I have to write it plus 5. So in this case, 5x minus 3x equals 2x. So 2x equals minus 12 plus 5. The greatest number is number 12. So it means that the next number will have the sign of the biggest number, the greatest number. So it's going to be negative. And I can make the difference now. 12 minus 5 equals 7. So it's minus 7. So minus 12 plus 5 equals minus 7. And in this case, I can divide by number 2 because I need only the x. I don't want 2x, but I need the value of x. So I can divide by 2. And in this case, I can simplify, and x equals minus 7 over 2. This is the value of x, okay? So this is called a first grade equation when we have to find the x's, and the x is to the power 1, okay? Now let's kind of complicate it a little bit. Let's talk about the second grade equations. They're really nice too. And if you know how to work with numbers, then this topic is going to be very easy for you. Okay? We said that the first grade equation form is like ax plus b equals 0. What about the form of second grade equation? Well, the form of second grade equation is like this. Ax to the power 2 plus bx plus c equals 0. This is the form of second grade equation. Why it's called second grade equation? Because x is to the power 2. So for this reason, I say that this is an equation like a second grade equation, okay? So the question is, how can I solve it? Well, there are different ways to solve it, but we're going to work with delta, because if we use this kind of method, we are able to solve every kind of second grade equations. And actually, the condition here is that a and b shouldn't be 0. So if I continue, I'd say that delta, one more thing, a, b, and c, these are numbers. A is always the number in front of quadratic x. B is always the number in front of x, and c is just the number without the x. Or better saying, x is to the power 0, that equals 1, so that's why we don't. B to the power 2 plus 4ac. This delta is going to help us to find the x, because this is a second grade equation, so I have to find two x's, because x is to the power 2. In the first grade equation, x is to the power 1, so I usually find 1x. But in the second grade equations, we have to find two x's, because x is to the power 2. It means that I have two different numbers, two solutions, better saying. So at the moment that I find the delta, I can continue and find x1 and x2. So x1, x2 equals minus b plus minus the square root of delta over 2a. And all a, b, and c are numbers. So I have already found the value of delta. And now I can find the x1 and x2. Plus and minus. Plus is for the x1 and minus is for the x2. So it's minus b plus minus the square root of delta over 2a. Okay? I know it sounds kind of strange now, but if we will continue with the exercises, I'm pretty sure that you'll understand it even better. So let's continue with one example.
If you want to try.
Okay, let's take a random example with random numbers. For example, 2x to the power 2 plus 2x to the power 2 plus x plus 4x plus 1 equals 0, okay? First of all, I have to find the value of a, b, and c. We said that the a is the number in front of quadratic x. So I have the right to say a equals 2, because in front of quadratic x is number 2. Another one, b equals 4. Why? Because the number in front of x to the power 1, the exercise here was minus, then the value of c is going to be minus 1. So be very careful with these kind of things. So delta equals quadratic b minus 4ac, okay? This is from our formula that I talked about at the beginning. So delta equals b to the power 2. The value of b is 4. So it's 4 to the power 2 minus 4 times 2 times 1, because the value of a is 2 and the value of c is 1, okay? So delta equals 16 minus 8, okay? Because 4 times 2 equals 8. Delta, in the end, equals 8. 16 minus 8, 8, okay? So if I continue, because I haven't finished yet, I just found the delta, but I need the x1 and x2. So I know that x1, x2 equals minus b plus minus the square root of delta over 2a. So I have b, the value of b, I have the delta because I just found it, and I have the value of a. So it's very easy now. Instead of b, I can write 4. But be careful. The formula says it's minus b. So it's minus 4, not because my b is negative, but because of formula says minus b. So it's going to be minus 4 plus minus the square root of 8, because the value of delta is 8. So the square root of 8 over 2 times 2, because the value of a is 2. So if I keep going, I'd say that 4 minus 4 plus minus the square root of 8 over 4. And I can say that x1, if I keep going, if you want, you can write the square root of 8 like 4 times 2. That gives me 8. And I can write it as the square root of 4 times the square root of 2. And I can write 4 as 2 times the square root of 2, if you want. But also like this, it's fine. It doesn't matter. So x1, if I can continue here, x1 equals minus 4 plus minus 2, the square root of 2. You can also keep the square root of 8. If this is very complicated for you, keep the square root of 8 if you want, okay? So over 4. This is the x1, so it's plus equals. I can factorize number 2, and I can say that 2 times minus 2 plus the square root of 2 over 4. So I can simplify here. And in the end, I'll say that my x1 is minus 2 plus the square root of 2 over 2. Easy. x2 equals minus 4 minus, in this case, 2 square root of 2 over 4. The same thing here. I keep going with the simplification. I can factorize number. I can write like minus 4 minus 2 the square root of 2. So I can factorize directly 2 here, and it's going to be minus 2 minus the square root of 2 over 4. And the value of x2 in this case is going to be minus 2 minus the square root of 2 over 2, because I can simplify it. So in the end, my two solutions in this case are x1 equals minus 2 plus the square root of 2 over 2, and the x2 equals minus 2 minus the square root of 2 over 2. So don't be afraid when we don't know the square root of delta, because in this case, I don't know the square root of 8. We don't know it. If it was 9, I can write immediately number 3. But in this case, just keep it. You can also keep going with the square root of 8. If for you it's very complicated to turn it in this form, then just don't write it. Just keep it as the square root of 8. I just did the simplification, but the result is the same. So the x1 equals minus 2 plus the square root of 2 over 2, and the x2 equals minus 2 minus, be careful, minus the square root of 2 over 2. And that's it. It's very easy. I want to clarify 3 rules about delta, because I saw that delta here is positive, right? It's 8. So it's easy for me to work with it. But what's happened if delta is negative? How can I do it? Or what about if delta is 0? So furthermore, let's talk about it. There are three cases. So if let's talk about the value of delta. If delta is positive, is greater than 0, so it's a positive number, we find two solutions, because I'm talking about the second grade equation, and the form is ax to the power 2 plus bx plus c equals 0. So if delta is a positive number, I find two solutions, x1 and x2, that are different from each other. So different from each other. I can find two values, x1 and x2, that are different from each other, like in the previous exercise that I did. But what if delta equals 0? What can I do in this case? Actually, in this case, we still have two numbers, two solutions, but things are different here. x1 equals x2 in this case. Be very careful. And what's going on with the formula that I did before, x1, x2, is going to be just minus b over 2a, because plus minus 0, because the value of delta is 0, so I don't need to write it. So it's going to be just minus b over 2a. So for this reason, I say that x1 equals x2. So it's very easy. And the third case of delta is when delta is a negative number. In this case, I can say that there's no solution, because x's do not belong to the R set. Okay? So I hope that you can manage to work with this. If you want, I can take an exercise, like I can write an exercise about the negative delta, so you will not get confused. For example, let's okay, let's say that okay, this is my exercise. Okay, I know that delta equals quadratic b minus 4ac. Okay, delta in this case equals a has the value 5, b has the value, this is just x, value 1, and c has the value 4. Okay, so in this case, I can say that 1 to the power 2 minus 4 times 5 times 4. In this case, delta equals 1 minus 20 times 4. Delta equals 1 minus 80. Delta equals minus 79. What can I do in this case? I can say immediately no solution. Okay? So there's no solution for this kind of exercise, because my delta has the value negative. It's minus 79, sorry. So I cannot find x's here. So we say that x's do not belong to the R set, or easily no solution for this exercise. Okay? Thank you for watching us. Thank you for your support. Wish you all the best. Take care. Bye-bye. Today we're gonna start again. Again, please.